The sky above Colony 7 turned red at exactly 6 in the morning. Do-hun was eating breakfast with his mother and younger sister when the first explosion hit. The ground shook so hard that the table flipped over. His mother screamed. His sister started crying, and then the ceiling came down. Do-hun was 19 years old. He had joined the Colony Defense Force only 3 months ago. He had never fired his weapon at anything except training targets. He had never seen death, but in the next 6 hours, he would see more death than most humans see in a lifetime. The Dominion fleet had arrived without warning. 50 massive ships appeared in orbit around the small mining colony. High Commander Vorak stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked down at the planet with cold eyes. To him, this was not a world full of families and dreams. It was simply a rock that the Dominion needed. The humans living on it were insects. Nothing more. Begin the bombardment, Vorak ordered. His voice was calm, bored, even. He had done this many times before. Young species always lived on planets that the Dominion wanted, and young species always learned the same lesson. Resist, and you die. Submit, and you might be allowed to serve. Vorak expected the humans to send a message begging for peace within the first hour. Every other species had done exactly that. The bombardment continued for 6 hours. The Dominion ships fired plasma rounds that burned through buildings like paper. They launched missiles that turned entire city blocks into craters. They did not aim at military targets because there were almost no military targets. Colony 7 was a mining settlement. The people there were workers, engineers, teachers, children. They had no army, they had no warships, they had nothing. When the smoke cleared, 200,000 humans were dead. The colony was gone. Only ash and rubble remained. Do-hun crawled out from under the collapsed building 3 days later. Rescue teams from Earth found him buried under concrete. His body broken but his heart still beating. He was the only survivor from his family. He was one of only 800 survivors from the entire colony. The rescue workers gave him water. They wrapped blankets around his shoulders. They told him he was safe now. But Do-hun did not feel safe. He felt something else. Something cold and hard growing inside his chest. He looked up at the sky where the Dominion ships had been, and he made a promise to himself. A promise that he would keep no matter how long it took. On Earth, the news of Colony 7 spread like fire. People gathered in the streets. They watched the footage on giant screens. They saw the bodies. They saw the destruction. They saw what the Dominion had done to innocent people who had never threatened anyone. President Yoon stood before the United Nations that same day. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had spent her whole career trying to build peace between humans and the alien races of the galaxy. She had believed that diplomacy could solve any problem. She had been wrong. They did not ask, she said into the microphone. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. They did not warn. They did not give our people a chance to leave. They simply killed. 200,000 of our brothers and sisters, gone in 6 hours. She paused. The room was completely silent. The Dominion believes we are weak. They believe we will beg for mercy. They believe we will bow down and accept slavery to save ourselves. She looked directly into the camera. They are wrong. Today, I am announcing that Earth and all human colonies are now at war with the Galactic Dominion. We will not negotiate. We will not surrender. We will fight until we win, or until there are no humans left to fight. The message was broadcast across all human space. Every colony, every station, every ship heard the same words. And something changed in humanity that day. Something old woke up. Something that had been sleeping since humans stopped fighting each other and started exploring the stars. On a space station orbiting Mars, Captain Tejo heard the president's speech. He was 42 years old, a veteran of small conflicts and border disputes. His wife and daughter had been on Colony 7. They had gone there to visit his wife's parents. They were supposed to come home next week. Now they would never come home. Tejo walked to the command center and volunteered for the mission everyone was talking about. Earth had one warship capable of offensive operations. Just one. It was called the Unbroken, and it needed a captain. A captain with nothing left to lose. He got the job. His crew came together over the next few weeks. Yuna was his tactical officer. She was 30 years old, brilliant, and angry. Her brother had been a doctor on Colony 7. Minho was the chief engineer. He was a genius who could build anything from nothing. His entire research team had been killed in the attack. Hana was the communications officer. She had been a diplomat once, someone who believed in talking instead of fighting. But talking had failed. Now she believed in something else. And then there was Do-hun, the young survivor, the boy who had crawled out of the ashes. He joined the crew of the Unbroken because he had nowhere else to go and nothing else to live for. The other crew members looked at him with pity at first, but soon, they would look at him with something else. Something closer to fear. The Unbroken launched from Earth on a cold morning. Thousands of people gathered to watch. They held signs. They cheered. They cried. Everyone knew this ship might never return. Everyone knew this war was not fair. The Dominion had 10,000 warships. Humanity had one. But humans had something the Dominion did not understand. Something that could not be measured or counted. High Commander Vorak would learn about it soon. He would learn that killing human families was the worst mistake he had ever made. As the Unbroken disappeared into the darkness of space, Taeho sat alone in his quarters. He looked at a picture of his wife and daughter. He touched their faces on the screen. Then he put the picture away and walked to the bridge. Set course for Dominion space, he ordered. Yuna looked at him. Sir, we have no backup. No support. If we engage their forces, we will be outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Taeho sat down in the captain's chair. Good, he said. Then they will not see us coming. Far away, in the heart of the Dominion Empire, Vorak received a report that the humans had sent a single warship into space. He laughed out loud. His officers laughed with him. One ship against the greatest military power in the galaxy. It was a joke, a pathetic gesture from a primitive species, but in the shadows of space, the Unbroken moved forward. And inside it, a crew of broken humans prepared to show the galaxy what happens when you give humanity a reason to fight. 3 months had passed since the Unbroken left Earth. High Commander Vorak expected the war to be over by now. He expected the humans to realize their mistake and surrender. Instead, something strange was happening. Something that made no sense to him. The patrol fleet he sent to destroy the human warship had not returned. 50 ships, gone. The Dominion had received only broken distress signals and then silence. Vorak sent a second fleet. 100 ships, this time. More than enough to destroy a single enemy vessel. The fleet found the Unbroken hiding in an asteroid belt at the edge of Dominion space. The commander of the fleet laughed when he saw it. 1 small ship against 100. This would take only minutes. The battle lasted 3 days. Captain Taeho did not fight like any enemy the Dominion had faced before. He did not meet them in open space. He did not follow the rules of engagement that every civilized species used. Instead, he played a different game. A human game. The Unbroken hid among the asteroids, using the rocks as shields. When Dominion ships came close, the human vessel would strike fast and hard, then disappear again. Taeho cut the engines and let the ship drift, making it look dead on enemy sensors. When Dominion rescue teams approached, the Unbroken came back to life and destroyed them. Yuna planned each attack with cold precision. She studied Dominion tactics and found patterns. She predicted where their ships would go and placed traps. She used the asteroids themselves as weapons, pushing them into the path of enemy vessels. The Dominion commanders had never seen anything like it. What are they doing? One Dominion officer asked. This is not how war is fought. But this was exactly how war was fought. On Earth, humans had been fighting each other for thousands of years. They had learned every trick, every dirty tactic, every way to win when you were outnumbered and outgunned. The Dominion had ruled the galaxy for 40,000 years through superior numbers and technology. They had forgotten what it meant to fight for survival. Humans had never forgotten. By the end of the 3 days, 12 Dominion ships were destroyed. The rest were damaged and scattered. The Unbroken escaped with burn marks on its hull and half its crew injured. But they escaped. They survived. And they had taught the Dominion the first lesson. Minho worked without sleep to repair the ship. He was covered in grease and burns, his hands shaking from too much coffee and too little rest. Coffee was a human drink that most alien species found disgusting. It contained chemicals that would be classified as dangerous drugs on most worlds. Humans drank it every morning, sometimes all day. It kept them awake when their bodies wanted to shut down. It kept them fighting when they should have collapsed. How long until we can fight again? Taeho asked. Minho looked up from his work. His eyes were red. He had not slept in 3 days. Give me 6 hours, he said. I just need to rebuild the main power coupling from spare parts. And maybe some parts that are not exactly spare. And maybe some parts I am just going to invent right now. 6 hours later, the Unbroken was ready to fight again. On the Dominion homeworld, a scientist named Esra received a special assignment. She was told to study humanity, to understand this strange species that refused to die when it was supposed to die. Esra accessed the human information networks. She read their history. She watched their movies. She studied their wars. And slowly, her curiosity turned to fear. Humans had fought 2 massive wars against each other that killed millions. They had developed weapons that could destroy entire cities in a single explosion. And then, instead of banning these weapons, they had built more of them. They had created a strategy called mutually assured destruction. The idea was simple. If you attack us, we will destroy you. Even if it means destroying ourselves. No other species in the galaxy had ever thought this way. No other species was crazy enough to find comfort in the idea that everyone would die together. Esra also learned about human biology. They were persistence predators. Long ago, on their home planet, humans did not hunt by being the fastest or the strongest. They hunted by following their prey for days. They walked and walked and walked until the animal they were chasing collapsed from exhaustion. Humans did not stop. They did not give up. Their bodies were designed to keep going when everything else failed. High Commander, Esra said when she delivered her report. I believe we have made a serious error. Vorak did not want to hear it. He was angry. He was embarrassed. He had lost over 60 ships to a single enemy vessel. The other races of the galaxy were starting to talk, starting to wonder if the Dominion was as powerful as everyone believed. Send 500 ships, Vorak ordered. I want that human vessel destroyed. I want its crew brought to me in pieces, but Minho had been busy with more than repairs. He had studied the wreckage of the Dominion ships they had destroyed. He had taken apart their technology and learned their secrets. Most importantly, he had figured out how their shields worked. Dominion shields were based on a specific energy frequency. If you knew the frequency, you could adjust your weapons to pass right through. No one had ever cracked the code before, but Minho was not like other engineers. He was human. He was desperate, and he had nothing left to lose. The next battle was a massacre, but not of humans. The Dominion fleet found the Unbroken near a gas giant. 500 ships surrounded the small human vessel. The Dominion commander gave the order to fire. Thousands of weapons lit up the darkness of space. The Unbroken fired back. Its missiles passed through Dominion shields like they were not there. Ships exploded one after another. The Dominion commander screamed orders, demanding to know what was happening. But there was no answer. There was no explanation. There was only death. The Unbroken destroyed 80 ships that day before escaping into the gas giant's atmosphere, where the Dominion vessels could not follow. It was impossible. It should not have happened. But it did. Do-hun led the boarding party on one of the damaged Dominion vessels. He moved through the corridors with a rifle in his hands and emptiness in his eyes. The crew members he found were not soldiers. They were engineers, technicians, support staff. They raised their hands in surrender. Do-hun did not care. When he returned to the Unbroken, his uniform was covered in blood that was not his own. Hana saw him and felt something cold in her stomach. She had known Do-hun when he first came aboard. He had been a scared boy, broken by loss. Now he was something else. Something harder. Something that war was creating from the pieces of his pain. They surrendered, Hana said quietly. Do-hun looked at her. So did Colony 7. He walked past her without another word. Captain Taeho recorded a message and sent it across all Dominion frequencies. It was short. It was simple. And it was terrifying. You started this, Taeho said, looking into the camera. You killed our families. You burned our homes. You thought we would bow. You were wrong. We are coming for you, not to negotiate, not to make peace. We are coming to make you regret ever learning our name. This is not a war. This is a lesson. And class has just begun. Far away, on a neutral space station, Ambassador Callan watched the message. He was from a peaceful species that had avoided conflict for 10,000 years. He had seen many wars between many races, but something about the human captain's eyes made him shiver. He had seen anger before. He had seen hatred, but he had never seen anything like what burned in Tejo's eyes. It was not hot rage. It was cold, patient, certain. Callan began writing a report to his government. His recommendation was simple. Do not get involved. Do not take sides. And whatever you do not give the humans a reason to remember your name. The hunt had only begun, and the Dominion was starting to realize that they were not the hunters, they were the prey. 6 months into the war, the galaxy had started paying attention. What should have been a quick extermination of a primitive species had become something else entirely. News spread from system to system. Stories were told in bars and meeting halls across 1,000 worlds. A single human warship was holding against the greatest military power in known space. It was impossible. It was ridiculous. And it was true. Ambassador Callan could not stop thinking about it. His species had achieved peace by staying away from everyone else. They watched. They recorded. They never got involved. But something about this war pulled at him. He needed to understand. He needed to see these humans for himself. He sent a request to the human government. He wanted to observe their operations. He wanted to join them on their ship. Most species would have refused. They would have seen it as a security risk. But the humans said yes. They said yes because they wanted the galaxy to see. They wanted everyone to know what the Dominion had created by killing Colony 7. Callan arrived on the Unbroken on a cold morning. The ship was smaller than he expected. The corridors were narrow. The rooms were cramped. Everything smelled like metal and sweat and something bitter that the humans called coffee. Callan had tried coffee once. It had made his heart beat too fast and his mind race with strange thoughts. Humans drank it constantly. Captain Tejo greeted him on the bridge. The human captain was not what Callan expected. He was not large or muscular. He was of average height, with gray appearing in his dark hair. His eyes were the most striking thing about him. They looked tired, sad, but underneath the sadness, there was something that burned like a star about to explode. Welcome to the Unbroken, Tejo said. I hope you can keep up. Callan soon learned what the captain meant. The humans operated on 4 hours of sleep. Sometimes less. Their bodies produced chemicals that let them push through exhaustion. Adrenaline, they called it. It flooded their systems during danger and gave them strength they should not have. Callan watched Minho work on the engines for 18 hours straight, his hands shaking but never stopping. He watched Yuna plan 3 different battle scenarios while eating a meal and talking to 2 people at once. He watched the soldiers train in the cargo bay, hitting each other with padded sticks and laughing when they got hurt. Laughing. They laughed at pain. Callan did not understand. How do you do this? He asked Hana one evening. How do you keep fighting when the odds are so bad? Any logical species would have surrendered by now. Hana smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Logic is a luxury, she said. When someone kills your family, you do not think about odds. You think about making them pay. You think about hurting them so badly that no one else will ever try it again. But you could die. All of you could die. Yes, Hana agreed. But so will they. That is enough for us. Callan added this to his notes. He was building a report on humanity. A warning for his people and anyone else who would listen. On the Dominion homeworld, Esra was doing the same thing. Her research had become an obsession. She spent every waking hour studying humans, trying to find their weakness. Instead, she kept finding reasons to be afraid. She learned about human medicine. When a human soldier was injured, they did not stop fighting unless they physically could not move. Their doctors had developed drugs that blocked pain entirely. Soldiers could take these drugs and keep fighting with wounds that would kill most species. It was insane. It was horrifying. It was effective. She learned about human history. They had fought wars over land, over resources, over ideas, over religion, over pride. They had fought wars for reasons that made no sense to anyone except humans. And they had never, not once in their entire history, surrendered to an outside threat. When they fought among themselves, one side might give up, but when they faced an enemy from outside their species, something different happened. They stopped fighting each other and united. Every single time, Ezra brought her findings to the Dominion Council. The old leaders sat in their grand chamber, looking bored and annoyed. They did not want to hear about human psychology. They wanted to hear about victory. The humans have a concept called spite, Ezra explained. It is difficult to translate, but I will try. Spite is when you hurt yourself to hurt your enemy, when you sacrifice your own benefit to make sure your opponent loses. One of the council members waved his hand dismissively. That is foolish. No species would do that. Humans do. Ezra said. They do it constantly. They will burn their own house down if it means their enemy burns too. They will destroy their own economy to damage yours. They will die by the millions if it means you die by the thousands. This is not rational. This is not logical. But it is human. The council did not believe her. They could not understand a species that fought without calculating the cost. They had ruled the galaxy for 40,000 years by being smart, by being efficient, by always choosing the winning side. The idea of fighting for pride, for revenge, for spite, was alien to them in a way that transcended language. Back on the Unbroken, Callan witnessed his first battle. The ship shook as weapons fire struck the hull. Alarms screamed, crew members ran to their stations, and through it all, the humans were calm, not peaceful calm, deadly calm. The calm of predators who had done this before and would do it again. Yuna called out orders in a voice that never wavered. Minho made repairs while the ship was still being hit, his hands bleeding from a cut he did not even notice. Tejo sat in his chair and watched the battle unfold, making decisions in seconds that would take other species minutes to consider. And Do-hun. Callan watched Do-hun most of all. The young soldier stood ready at his post, his face empty of emotion. He was not afraid. He was not excited. He was simply waiting for the moment when he could hurt the enemy, waiting for his chance to make them suffer. The battle ended in human victory. 3 Dominion ships destroyed, the Unbroken damaged but alive. As the crew cheered and celebrated, Callan sat in the corner and wrote more notes with trembling hands. That night, Hana found him staring out a window at the stars. "You are scared of us," she said. It was not a question. Callan nodded. "I have seen many species fight. I have seen courage and skill and determination, but I have never seen anything like you. You do not fight to win. You fight to destroy. There is a difference." "Yes," Hana agreed. "There is. Will you stop when the war is over? Will you go back to being peaceful explorers?" Hana was quiet for a long time. "I do not know," she finally said. "Maybe. Maybe not. The Dominion woke something up in us. Something old. Something we thought we had left behind. I am not sure it will go back to sleep. On Earth." The news got worse. Human intelligence had intercepted Dominion communications. High Commander Vorak was planning something big. He was tired of chasing the Unbroken. He wanted to end the war with overwhelming force. He was gathering the main fleet. 3,000 ships. The largest military force assembled in Dominion history. His target was Earth itself. Captain Tejo received the news with a face of stone. His crew gathered around him, waiting to hear the plan. Would they return to defend their homeworld? Would they stand and fight against impossible odds? Tejo looked at each of them. At Yuna, whose brilliant mind had kept them alive. At Minho, whose magic hands had saved the ship 100 times. At Hana, who had lost her faith in peace, but not her humanity. At Do-hun, who had become something cold and sharp and dangerous. "We are not going back to Earth," Tejo said. The crew stared at him in shock. "While Vorak attacks our home, we will attack his. We will take the fleet we have gathered and strike the Dominion homeworld. We will burn their cities while they burn ours. We will make them choose between destroying us and saving themselves. Sir, Yuna said carefully, if we do this, millions of humans will die on Earth. We might be leaving our families to die. Tejo's jaw tightened. I know. But if we defend Earth, we lose. They have 3,000 ships. We have 30. The math does not work. But if we attack their home while they attack ours, we change the game. We make them feel what we felt. We make them understand. He paused. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. If we die making them remember us forever. Callan listened in silence. He understood now. He understood what the Dominion had created. They had not started a war. They had started a blood feud with a species that did not know how to forgive. His report would carry one message. Stay away from the humans. Stay far, far away. 2 fleets passed each other in the darkness of space. 3,000 Dominion ships headed toward Earth. 30 human ships headed toward the Dominion homeworld. Neither fleet turned back. Neither fleet hesitated. It was the strangest moment in galactic military history. 2 enemies ignoring each other, each one racing to destroy what the other loved most. High Commander Vorak stood on his bridge and watched the human ships disappear into the distance. His officers looked nervous. They expected him to turn around, to defend the homeworld. That was what any logical species would do. Sir, his second officer said carefully, should we not protect our cities? Our families? Vorak shook his head. The humans are bluffing. They have 30 ships. 30. They cannot scratch our homeworld. Our defense fleet will handle them easily. But Earth is vulnerable. When we destroy their planet, this war ends. Their little fleet will have nowhere to go. They will surrender or starve. He was so certain, so confident. He had fought wars for 200 years. He knew how species behaved. He knew that every creature in the universe valued survival above all else. He did not know humans. On the Dominion homeworld, scientist Esra received the warning about the incoming human fleet. She immediately contacted the Defense Command. Her voice was urgent, almost panicked. You must take this seriously, she said. You must throw everything you have at them. The defense commander laughed. 30 ships. We have 200 ships in the home fleet. This will be over in hours. You do not understand, Esra insisted. They are not coming to win. They are coming to hurt you. They do not care if they die. They only care about making you suffer before they do. The commander ended the communication. Esra sat alone in her laboratory, surrounded by files and reports about humanity. She had tried to warn them. She had tried to make them understand, but the Dominion had been supreme for so long that they could not imagine losing. They could not imagine a species that would sacrifice everything just to cause pain. Captain Tejo's fleet entered Dominion space like wolves entering a sheep's pasture. They did not head straight for the homeworld. That would be stupid. Instead, they scattered. They split into small groups and attacked everything they could find. Supply stations exploded. Communication relays went dark. Manufacturing facilities burned. The humans were not fighting a traditional war. They were tearing at the strings that held the Dominion together. Every ship they destroyed, every station they burned, was one less resource the Dominion could use. One more wound that would never fully heal. Yuna planned each attack with vicious precision. She knew they could not win a straight fight, so she did not fight straight. She hit targets when they were vulnerable. She attacked convoys carrying food and medicine. She destroyed fuel depots and repair yards. It was ugly. It was cruel. It was war. Minho worked miracles every day. The human ships were damaged in almost every battle. He fixed them with parts stolen from Dominion wreckage. He built new weapons from enemy technology. He modified the engines to go faster than they were designed to go. When his crew asked how he did it, he shrugged and said, "Humans are good at breaking things. We are even better at putting them back together wrong on purpose." Hana monitored Dominion communications. She listened to their commanders argue and panic. She heard reports about the attack on Earth and felt her heart break. But she also heard something else. She heard fear, real fear. The Dominion was starting to understand what they had unleashed. And Dohun, Do-hoon had changed so much that the others barely recognized him anymore. He led every boarding party. He was always first through the door. He fought with a cold efficiency that made even veteran soldiers uncomfortable. The enemy soldiers he faced saw something in his eyes that they had never seen before. It was not hatred. It was emptiness. He had already died inside. Now he was just waiting for his body to catch up. On the Dominion homeworld, Ezra watched the reports come in. Human ships were everywhere, hitting targets across the entire sector. The defense fleet tried to catch them, but the humans were too fast, too unpredictable. They struck and vanished like ghosts. Ezra finally understood what was happening. The humans were not trying to conquer the Dominion. They were trying to cripple it. They were destroying the things that an empire needed to function. If this continued, the Dominion would not fall in battle. It would slowly starve. She requested an emergency meeting with the Dominion Council. This time, they listened. High Commander Vorak's fleet cannot return home, Ezra explained. The humans have destroyed the supply lines. His ships will run out of fuel in 3 months. They will run out of ammunition in 6 weeks. They will run out of food in 4 months. Even if he destroys Earth, his fleet will die on the way back. The council members looked at each other in horror. Then recall him, one of them demanded. Tell him to come back now. It is too late. The damage is done. And even if he turns around today, the humans will attack him the entire way. They will pick off his ships one by one. He cannot win this war anymore. The only question is how much we lose before it ends. Far away, the battle for Earth had begun. The Dominion fleet arrived in orbit around humanity's homeworld like a storm covering the sun. 3,000 ships. Enough firepower to crack the planet in half. Vorak gave the order to begin the bombardment, but something unexpected happened. The humans did not run. They did not hide. They came out to fight. 200 human warships rose from Earth's surface and orbital stations. It was not enough. It was nowhere close to enough. But they fought anyway. Human pilots flew their ships directly at Dominion vessels, sometimes crashing into them on purpose when their weapons ran out. Civilians strapped explosives to cargo ships and drove them into enemy formations. Parents put their children on evacuation vessels and then turned around to fight. Teenagers lied about their age to crew weapons platforms. Old soldiers came out of retirement. Scientists picked up rifles. Teachers became soldiers. Earth became a place where the math of war did not matter. The Dominion had more ships. They had better technology. They had every advantage. But humans refused to calculate the odds. They refused to accept defeat. They just kept fighting. Cities burned. Continents shook. Millions died in the first day alone. The Dominion commanders expected the humans to break, to beg for mercy, to surrender, to save what was left. The humans fought harder. Vorak watched from his flagship with growing unease. This was not how wars were supposed to work. Species were supposed to value survival. They were supposed to give up when the situation was hopeless. But these humans kept coming. Wave after wave, ship after ship. Life after life. What is wrong with them? He whispered. His science officer pulled up a file. It was from Ezra's research. Sir, there is a human concept called fighting to the last. They have done it many times in their history. When they believe something is worth dying for, they do not surrender. Ever. They fight until there is nothing left. But we are offering to let them live. We only want their planet. They could have new planets. They could survive. 200 distant. 2 planets in the Cummered. Sir, you killed their colony. You did not ask. You did not negotiate. You just killed. To them, this is not a war for territory. This is revenge, and humans do not stop seeking revenge until one side is completely destroyed. Vorak felt something he had not felt in 200 years of war. He felt afraid. Back on the Unbroken, Captain Tejo received reports from Earth. He read about the destruction. He read about the millions dying. He read about the impossible courage of ordinary humans who refused to give up. His hands shook as he held the datapad. His wife, his daughter, they were already dead. But somewhere on Earth, other families were dying right now. Other children were losing their parents. Other parents were losing their children. Because he had chosen to attack the Dominion instead of defending his home, Yuna found him alone in his quarters. He was sitting in the dark, staring at nothing. "Captain," she said softly, "the crew needs you, I know." His voice was hollow. "I just needed a moment to remember why we are doing this." "Why are we doing this?" Teho looked up at her. His eyes were wet. "Because if we win, no one will ever do this to humanity again. The galaxy will remember what happens when you attack us. They will remember for 1,000 years. And they will be afraid. That fear will protect our children, our grandchildren. Every human who comes after us." He stood up and walked to the bridge. The crew was waiting. They had all heard the news from Earth. They all had friends and family there. They were all grieving. "The Dominion is dying," Teho said. "They do not know it yet. But we have cut their strings. Their fleet cannot survive. Their empire will crumble. And when it does, the galaxy will know that humanity did this. One species, against the greatest power in known space. We won because they thought we would fight like them. But we fight like humans. We fight until there is nothing left. And then, we keep fighting." He paused. "Earth is burning. Our people are dying. But they are not dying for nothing. They are dying so that we can win. So that we can make this mean something. Do not let their sacrifice be wasted. We finish this. We end the Dominion. We make sure nothing like this ever happens again." The crew straightened up. Their grief did not disappear. But something else joined it. Something hard. Something determined. Something human. The final battle was coming. And the galaxy would never be the same. The war had reached its final hour. On two worlds, separated by thousands of light years, the same terrible choice was being made. Fight to the death, or surrender, and hope for mercy. Humans chose to fight. They always chose to fight. Earth was burning. Entire cities had been reduced to craters. The oceans boiled where Dominion weapons had struck too deep. Mountains crumbled. Rivers turned to steam. Of the 12 billion humans who had lived on the planet, 8 billion were already dead. The survivors hid in underground shelters, in caves, in the ruins of their civilization. They listened to the explosions above and waited for the end. But the end did not come. The human defense fleet was down to 40 ships, 40 against 2,000. The math was impossible. But humans did not care about math. They cared about taking as many enemies with them as possible. High Commander Vorak stood on his bridge and watched the battle unfold. He should have felt victorious. His fleet was winning. Earth was dying. But something was wrong. The humans were not breaking. Every time he thought they were finished, more ships appeared. Civilian transports with weapons welded to their hulls. Mining vessels loaded with explosives. Anything that could fly and fight was flying and fighting. "Sir," his communications officer said, his voice shaking, "we are receiving reports from home. The human fleet has reached the capital city. They are attacking the council building." Vorak froze. "What about our defense fleet?" "Destroyed, sir. The humans had some kind of new weapon. Something that passed through our shields. The defense fleet was gone in hours." Vorak looked out the window at Earth, still fighting, still refusing to die. Then he looked at the star map showing his homeworld, burning just like the planet below him. He finally understood. The humans had not been running. They had not been hiding. They had been waiting. Waiting for him to commit everything to this attack. Waiting for the moment when the Dominion homeworld would be defenseless. "Get me Ezra," he ordered. Now, on the Dominion homeworld, chaos ruled the streets. Human ships flew overhead, raining fire on military targets. The great towers of the capital burned. The council building, seat of Dominion power for 40,000 years, was surrounded by human troops. Captain Teho led the assault personally. His fleet had taken heavy losses reaching this point. Only 18 ships remained, but they had accomplished something no one thought possible. They had brought the war to the heart of the enemy. Ezra found him in the communications center of the council building. She had surrendered without a fight. She knew there was no point in resisting. "Captain Teho," she said, her voice calm despite the destruction around her. I tried to warn them. I told them what humans are. They did not listen. Teho looked at her with tired eyes. No one ever listens. Until it is too late. What will you do now? Kill the council? Destroy our civilization? That depends on them. I want to speak to Vorak. I want to end this. Ezra arranged the communication. Across thousands of light years, two leaders faced each other on screens. One was old and proud and defeated. The other was broken and angry and victorious. High Commander, Teho said. Your homeworld is burning. Your fleet is stranded. Your supply lines are destroyed. You can continue fighting Earth, but your ships will run out of fuel before you can return home. Your soldiers will starve. Your empire will collapse. Vorak's face was twisted with rage. You think you have won? Look at Earth. Your planet is dying. Your species is dying. Even if you destroy us, you will have nothing left. You are right. Teho agreed. We are dying. But so are you. The difference is that we accepted death the moment you attacked Colony 7. We have been fighting as dead men ever since. We have nothing left to lose. Can you say the same? The silence stretched between them. Vorak looked at his officers. They were afraid. They had families on the homeworld. They had lives they wanted to return to. They had something to lose. Teho pressed on. Here is my offer. Full surrender. You will withdraw from Earth. You will pay reparations to every human family who lost someone. You will accept whatever terms we decide. In return, we will stop the attack on your homeworld. Your empire will survive. Your people will live. And if I refuse, then we both die. My ships will destroy your council building. Your fleet will destroy Earth. And in 100 years, historians will study the war that ended with no winners. Just two civilizations that destroyed each other because neither one would back down. Teho leaned forward. I am offering you a chance to live, Vorak. I suggest you take it. Because I promise you, if you do not, I will spend my last breath making sure the Dominion falls with us. Vorak stared at him. The human's eyes were dead. Empty. There was no bluff in them. No hesitation. He meant every word. He would watch his species burn if it meant the Dominion burned too. This was what Ezra had tried to explain. This was the human concept of spite. They would hurt themselves to hurt their enemies. They would sacrifice everything just to make sure their opponent lost. For the first time in his long life, Vorak faced an enemy he could not intimidate, could not outlast, could not defeat. Sir, his second officer whispered, we should accept. There is no victory here, only different kinds of defeat. Vorak closed his eyes. His pride screamed at him to fight, to take as many humans with him as possible. But he was not human. He could not embrace destruction the way they did. He valued survival. He valued his species. He valued tomorrow. I accept your terms, he said. The words tasted like poison in his mouth. Captain Teho did not smile. He did not celebrate. He just nodded and ended the communication. Around him, his crew sat in stunned silence. They had won. Against all odds, against all reason. They had won, but victory felt hollow. Earth was dying. Millions more would die in the coming weeks from radiation and starvation and disease. The human species had survived, but at a cost that would take generations to recover from. Yuna found Teho sitting alone in the captain's quarters an hour later. He was staring at a picture of his wife and daughter. Sir, she said softly, the ceasefire is holding. Dominion ships are withdrawing from Earth. Teho nodded but did not look up. We won, sir. We actually won. I know. His voice was barely a whisper. I just wonder if they would be proud of what we became to do it. Yuna sat down beside him. You did what you had to do. We all did. I know that too. But knowing it does not make it easier. On the bridge, Hana was receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. News of the surrender was spreading. Species that had watched from the sidelines were sending messages. Some were congratulations, some were offers of aid, but most were something else. Most were expressions of fear, respect mixed with terror. Humanity had defeated the most powerful empire in known space. They had done it with spite and sacrifice and a refusal to accept defeat. The galaxy would never look at them the same way again. Do-hun stood at a window, watching the Dominion homeworld burn. He felt nothing. No satisfaction. No relief. Just emptiness. The war was over. But the hole inside him remained. His family was still dead. His home was still gone. Revenge had not brought them back. It had not healed him. It had just given him something to do while he waited to feel alive again. Minho found him there. The engineer looked even worse than usual. Exhausted. Dirty. Broken. "It is over," Minho said. "Is it?" Do-hun replied. "The war is over. But we are still us. Still whatever the war made us. Maybe that changes with time. Maybe." Do-hun turned away from the window. "Or maybe some things cannot be unmade." Ambassador Callan submitted his final report to the Galactic Neutral Assembly 1 week later. The document was classified at the highest level. Its contents were shared only with senior leaders of species who might one day consider conflict with humanity. The report contained one recommendation, written in bold letters at the top of every page. Add humanity to the protected threat registry. Do not engage. Do not provoke. Do not give them a reason. They are not the strongest species in the galaxy. They are not the most advanced. But they are the most dangerous. Because they will sacrifice everything to destroy their enemies. Everything. Remember, Colony 7. Remember what one act of aggression created, and never, under any circumstances, make the same mistake. Captain Taiho returned to Earth 3 months later. The planet was still recovering. Cities were being rebuilt. Populations were being relocated from the devastated zones. It would take decades, maybe centuries, for Earth to become what it once was. He stood on a hill overlooking the ruins of his hometown. The house where he had lived with his family was gone. Just a crater filled with ash and memory. Yuna stood beside him. Minho, Hana, Do-hun, the crew of the Unbroken, had become something more than colleagues. They were family now. The only family most of them had left. "What do we do now?" Yuna asked. Taiho thought about it. He thought about his wife and daughter. He thought about Colony 7. He thought about all the death and pain and sacrifice that had brought them to this moment. "We rebuild," he said finally. "We heal. We remember. And we make sure no one ever forgets what happens when you give humanity a reason to fight." He looked up at the sky, at the stars that had once seemed so full of promise. Somewhere out there, the Dominion was licking its wounds. Other species were watching, learning, adjusting their plans. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had changed it. "They called us the deadliest species in the galaxy," Taiho said quietly. "They were right. We just wish they had not made us prove it." The wind blew across the scarred earth, carrying ashes from 1,000 cities. But underneath the ashes, seeds were beginning to grow. Life was returning. Humanity was returning. They had survived. They had won. And the galaxy would remember their name for 1,000 years. Not with admiration, not with love, with fear, and for humanity, that was enough.